Good evening. Linda, could you please give the invocation?
Let's pray. Holy and righteous Father, creator and sustainer of all things, we come to you tonight and invite Holy Spirit to hover and brood over this meeting so that the purposes of God are accomplished. We bind any ill will, animosity, retribution, and offenses, and we loose joy, peace, comradeship, and virtue. We thank you, Lord, that our enemy is not the person sitting next to us, the leaders in the community, our neighbors, or the public. Your word says in Ephesians 6:10 through 13, finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that you may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places. Therefore, take up the whole armor of God, that you may be able to withstand in the evil day, and having done all, to stand. Father, release your armor of truth and righteousness, the gospel of peace, the shield of faith, the helmet of salvation, and the sword of the Spirit, your word, over those seated here tonight, and bring them into oneness as they make important decisions regarding this city and the people who reside here. We trust you, Lord, to lead the way and have your way. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Linda. Now we'll officially call this special meeting to order. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Mayor Miller,
Here.
Alderpersons Clem,
Here.
Monroe will be marked absent for now. Simmons,
He's on the heart.
Perfect time.
Parker,
Here.
Stacy, Shadle,
Here.
Sanders, and Sellers.
And then to finish what Alderman Clem had just made a comment on, we have on the phone Alderman Monroe, so we'll need a motion to allow him to enter that way.
So moved.
We have a motion made by Alderman Parker, seconded by Alderman Clem. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Madam Mayor,
Yes.
when someone is attending remotely, I believe all votes need to be by roll call.
Oh, sure. If you could take the roll.
Sanders,
Here.
Sellers, Clem,
Here. Aye.
correct. Simmons,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Stacy,
Aye.
and Shadle.
Aye.
Motion passes 7-0.
Okay, then we will move on to the next item, which is the Pledge of Allegiance, led by Alderman Sanders.
Pledge allegiance.
Item number 1 is approval of the agenda. Is there such a motion?
So moved. Second.
We have a motion made by Alderman Shadle, seconded by Alderman Clem. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Sanders,
Aye.
yes or no? Sellers,
Yes, I know this.
or aye. Clem,
Aye.
Monroe,
Aye.
Simmons,
Aye.
Parker,
Aye.
Stacy,
Aye.
and Shadle.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Item number 2 is public comment. We have a couple of signed in. Art Ross?
Okay, I'm Art Ross. I live at 32 South Hooker here in Freeport. The reason why I'm here today is in reference to the bridge. I'll try to make this short and sweet. Back in 2017, the business owners from 4 business owners, the major business owners here in town, Consolidated Grain, Martyr Plating, Inertia, and FS. They approached me and says, Art, what are we going to do about this bridge? Because they use it to get their products in, get their products out. So I said, let me look into it. So I began looking into it. I then got in a boat and went underneath the bridge and took pictures of it to see exactly what they were speaking of. I knew the deck was in bad shape, but there had been work done to the deck prior to me going underneath the bridge and taking pictures. If you'd like to see them, I got them here. The thing about the bridge, like you said, I started in 2017 with this, and it is a much needed bridge, because with these stakeholders over here that I just named off, what it's going to basically come down to, if it comes down to a 2-lane bridge, that's not going to do them any good at all. It's just going to cause, they're more than likely just going to, not more than likely, they done said it, they're going to pack up and leave. And that's going to be a very big burden on the city of Freeport. We're going to have jobs lost. Unfortunately, there's going to be revenue loss too. And I wouldn't want to have to carry that on my shoulders at all. So basically what I'm saying is I would like to see, this is the we deals, not I. Only thing when it come to I is me. I got in the boat, got in there and took some pictures, and that's about it. And I need to do no more than that. But I just wanted to get the ball rolling. We did have a meeting last year with the same stakeholders. And I do have a letter from one of the stakeholders, being from FS, Jay Kemple, stating how important that bridge is to his company. And we also have our own water and sewer over there too that uses that bridge. We also have Bamberg Plumbing that uses that bridge to get their heavy equipment across because they can't get underneath the viaduct. Now, but with that being said, is that I would like to see us, work together and see what we can accomplish to get this done. Because if we lose those stakeholders here in town, like I say, we're up a creek without a paddle. I mean, and employment and jobs are hard enough to find. At this point, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Art.
Thank you.
Thank you, Art.
And we also have Wendy Pearson.
I'm Wendy Pearson, 1323 South Chicago Avenue. I understand exactly what Art Ross is talking about. Right now, my concern isn't the bridge. It isn't the business owners. It's the people of Freeport. Our water bill has increased. Our taxes have increased. Some people are concerned about how they're going to pay their taxes to pay for their homes. There's a concern here that money is being flowed, but our people are suffering. I understand the bridge needs to be fixed, but the bridge should have been fixed a long time ago. I'm asking that this city council do not move forward with this until the people have an opportunity to look at what is being presented to the council so that we are in full understanding of what and how this is going to affect us, our livelihoods, our children, and this community as a whole. That does include the businesses. But I think that the citizens of Freeport should have a voice and not continuously be beaten up by taxes that they can't afford. Basically, when I talk to people about their water bill, this is what they say to me. I look at my water usage, and it's $24, but my bill is $120. We have elderly people in this town, and I'll continuously say this every time I stand before the city council. Be careful how you treat our people. Be careful how you treat our children. This year's election should have told you something. Be careful how you vote, how you spend our money, and how you disregard our abilities to make decisions as to what is important in our lives and in the city. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move on to item number 3, which is a discussion and possible action regarding Hancock Bridge and the street program. Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to give you a quick background on the Hancock Bridge, the structure was built in 1952. It is a city-owned and is an IDOT route. It is a minor collector and truck route. Average daily traffic flow is about 1,450 vehicles with 175 semi-trucks per day, 80,000 pounds. Only minor rehabilitation repairs have taken place since its construction. Kurt, can you give me the next couple slides here? Give me the first one. Next one down. All right, thank you. Overall, minimal repairs have been made in the last 70 years. The city first discussed repair or replacement of the bridge in 2017. Current concerns brought up to council by Councilmember Art Ross and the former city manager Lowell Crow. 5 businesses along Hancock requested public meeting to discuss the concerns. The Hancock Bridge is currently the only permanent truck route access to businesses in that corridor. Former city manager Randy Bucas made it a Hancock Bridge improvements a priority project when taking position in 2020. No funding in the project being put on hold until while we searched for funding sources. So we were continuing to look for funding to move forward with it. In 2022, again, the businesses got together and requested some information on the status of the bridge. In the fall of 2022, Fairgraham was able to get $1.6 million of IDOT STU monies allocated toward the bridge repairs. This funding must be bid and committed by the end of 2024. However, we'll go into the contingent variables and the timing of that here. In 2023, the Public Works Department allocated $200,000 to cover the cost of design. Last year, IDOT did an inspection, and they also downgraded. They put the bridge on increased monitoring. It used to be once every 5 years. It is now every year. And in 2023, the results of the inspection were as follows. The deck condition was a 4 out of 10. Superstructure was a 4 out of 10. The substructure is a 7 out of 10. Channel condition is 6 out of 10. Waterway adequacy, 8 out of 10. Approach and roadway alignment, 6 out of 10, and bridge rail adequacy, the railing along the sides is a 2 out of 10. So June 2023 photos show significant accelerated problems with the bridge. Ratings have indicated that the channel and abutment substructure are in acceptable condition, and everything above the substructure is in poor condition. Conditions suggest rehabilitation of the superstructure, railing, deck, and bridge bearing and assembly. Could I go ahead and pull up? You've got, yeah, there you go. Very good. So we've got the deck in this photo that shows multiple patches, but the problem is you've got holes all the way through that deck, and you put a patch in there, it just falls through. Let's see here. Next one. This is a water drain in the bridge deck. As you can see, the rebar and the concrete is spalling and breaking loose. Next image. Here is some of the substructure. The beams have incurred some wear and some corrosion, but they are acceptable to reuse if painted appropriately and cleaned up. And let's see the next one. That is some forms that were put up so that the deck could be repaired. So, but you can see under there that there's quite a bit of corrosion, and the rebar rust is popping through the bottom of the deck. And the last picture here, that's the bridge bearings. The bridge bearings are very stiff, and many of them are seized that cause the bridge to buck as heavy traffic goes across it. And again, here's another picture of the superstructure. There's a large chunk of concrete that was penetrated by water and then froze and broke off a large chunk there on one of the abutments. And then the last picture here is the handrail, but there's multiple places. Actually, this was the railing was actually hit by a car several years ago, and it had a patch put in, a piece of crash barrier. So the actual railing is in very bad shape. And one of the issues here is because the bridge is like right on the edge of being able to be saved. Right now, our current cost estimates are showing about $2.2 million to repair the current bridge. As we mentioned before, we got substantial STU funds from IDOT up to $1.6 million. However, the city would have to come up with a balance on that. It would be about $400,000, and we will have to continue to budget. Last slide there. Okay, so we got three main options here, two of them not so good, one of them about the best case. Option one is what we're talking about, which is continuing to replace and repair the existing structure, so the beams, deck, railing, bearings, and roadway. We'd have to take the bridge offline for about 9 months, and that would require us to open up a secondary route to the area, and that would be at the viaduct. We would also have to do some work at viaduct to ensure that that was able to be that could happen. Option two, a full reconstruct. So that would basically be a new bridge that would be required to be raised 8 feet above the current Hancock Bridge elevation, and to get it out of the floodway. And the rough estimate for that is $10 million. However, I believe that would be more by the time we were able to get design and all the ducks in a row. That would be a significant amount of time, and it would end up costing more. In the meantime, the Hancock Bridge would most likely be downgraded for through truck, and that would create a real hardship for not only the businesses, but the people that live over in Arcade. As far as I can tell, most moving vans are taller than 11 foot 5 inches, and it would preclude moving vans from getting back to the Arcade. So that's just one example. And the third option is basically do nothing, and then in that case, we would not have a plan whatsoever, and we would definitely lose those businesses that are there, and we would essentially be abandoning that area. Unfortunately, we also have city infrastructure, the wastewater treatment plant that requires chemical deliveries. And by going with smaller trucks, it's going to have legacy costs associated with chemical deliveries to the wastewater plant. We're also looking at a major wastewater plant upgrade. And without a bridge access, I think that would increase the cost of the wastewater treatment plant upgrade substantially. So with that being said, I'd like to just touch on the viaduct. Go to the next slide, please. Okay, so the viaduct is Shawnee and Arcade. That would be our plan B. However, this viaduct is at 11 foot 5 inches tall. It's too low for, as I mentioned, moving vans, standard semi-trailers, and especially the type of equipment that is manufactured by Inertia. Their equipment is very large and requires the ability to get through without a low-hanging overhead. So the plan there, as we touched on, is to lower the viaduct, working with CN. There's a couple of little hurdles associated with this. One is that we'd have to support one of the abutments. In the past, the other side had been reinforced, so it is okay, but it would not need any major work, but the other side would require substantial foundation work. So once that's done, then we could continue to dig down about 3 feet, giving us more clearance under the bridge. I'm sorry, under the viaduct there, and then feather out the road to meet Arcade Shawnee. So this particular project, we don't really have a strong cost estimate on that. Our best guess is somewhere around $1 million. However, it really depends on our design and what we end up getting with what we find once we continue with our efforts on that. So this is kind of a two-stage process. We have to get the bridge going and moving and doing what we can on that. And the second aspect of this is we need to start working on the viaduct as well. Let's see. Could you just go ahead and skip to the design plan project area? And you have all these handouts. I don't think I need to read through every single one of these. If you take your time and look at them, it becomes pretty clear. Next slide, please. Keep going. Okay, so this would be the general layout of the design. So we would repair or retrofit the abutment wall on the left side of the screen there where it's cross-hatched, and then we would drop the roadway underneath the viaduct 3 foot and make any repairs necessary for the storm. So although we're estimating $1 million, it is very difficult to estimate. So this is another piece of infrastructure that has been, we since we had the bridge, we didn't worry about making clearance for a secondary path out of that area. Could you skip to the options, alternatives slide, please? So option one, lower the roadway under the viaduct, and as I mentioned, that it requires reinforcement of the west abutment, and would increase the clearance from 11.5 to 14.6. Option 2 could be an above-grade rail crossing that would require CN Railroad's approval. CN has noted at-grade crossings are being phased out due to liability and will not approve for Freeport. And there would be an estimated cost of $5 million with an at-grade crossing, in addition to an unspecified times table if, in fact, it was approved by CN, which it would not be. Option 3, a bridge crossing. You're looking at a $15 to $20 million potential there. It could be done in the area of Singer at the jail. However, it would be much more costly than modifying the viaduct. Option 4, work with inertia and ultrasonic. Would not be a permanent solution, but there's alternative access. There's a single viaduct behind inertia, single lane viaduct. It used to be for the train. This creates a lot of challenges as well, because you've got, there's no road there. It goes behind inertia, and it would require some type of heretofore unknown signal setup where trucks couldn't go head to head inside that viaduct, because there's only room for one. And it would also need buy-in from the business owners for significant daily traffic flow. As we talked before, we have nearly 150 trucks per day, and that would have to be accommodated through there, and I personally feel that is a bad option. And then option 5, do nothing again, and that is going back to, we would be most likely losing 3 significant employers in that area of town, and not to mention the revenue and the business that's brought in by them. So in summary, both the Hancock Bridge, could you go to the, yep, thank you. Both the Hancock Bridge rehabilitation and the viaduct clearance improvement projects go hand in hand, both to maintain truck access in local businesses and to permanently allow for 2 means of access for safety vehicles to the area. Currently, as I mentioned before, if the bridge is reduced or it is condemned because of safety reasons, even the folks living there wouldn't be able to drive a standard moving van over to that side of town. So at this point, that concludes the presentation, and I'd like to open up the floor for questions.
Alderman Parker?
Yes, I am very, very much, we gotta fix it. And halfway agree with Ms. Pearson. We are responsible to the people, but there's hundreds of people working there. There's hundreds of people living in the arcade, and that's who we're responsible for. That bridge is very dangerous the way it is. There's been some people looking at it here recently that's talked to me about it, and I think this is something that it's a no-brainer. We gotta fix it, because if we lose them businesses, we lose them citizens, and our populations already went down. We gotta have something. We owe that to them. And I know if I lived over there, I'd be real upset the condition of it. Unfortunately, I don't live there, but I think it's something that we really need to get done and get going darn quick. Thank you.
Alderman Shadle?
Just to elaborate a little bit on what Alderman Parker just said, the other thing to consider is the fact that we've got people living on the east side of Freeport as well. And if this bridge gets closed, that creates a one-way in from the city for services, emergency services. And when the train comes across, by Illinois Vehicle Code, I think it's 5 minutes is all they're supposed to close a street by a train. But I know for a fact that happens well north of 5 minutes on numerous occasions. And there is another access through Henderson, but to not have another access to the east side within the city limits is absurd. The other thing, if we want to not fix the bridge, we could do the viaduct work and have access semis and just let it go. Again, though, we're sacrificing safety of our people on the east side. We've got $3 million worth of work that's going to have to be done. $1 million of it coming from us to get the work done on Shawnee. If we let the bridge go, I feel we still have to do that. and we could get the bridge done for another 400,000 of our money. It just seems to me that it's plain. It just needs to be done. I was over there just this afternoon before the meeting and drove across the bridge and looked at it, and these pictures don't do it justice. I won't drive over it again. It's bad.
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Simmons?
this has nothing to do with the people on the east side. If it did, it'd have been fixed. And we're talking about closing down that second way for when the train closes for over a year to have this work done. So that's the perfect reason to not do it at this time, because those people will not have a second way for emergency services to get to them for over a year while this work is being done. If we were concerned about our citizens, it would have been done already.
You're right.
Years ago, not when businesses threatened to leave town. And again, if it was about our citizens, when I asked the alternate route in case a train stops on Stevenson, it was, we're gonna go all the way around 26, over the highway, and back down Hancock. So what you brought up would be a perfect reason to say no at this time. So thank you very much, Mr. Shado, for bringing that up.
Madam Mayor,
Alderman Clem?
what's our plan then if we don't do that? If we don't fix the bridge and we don't fix the viaduct, I want to throw something in here that was mentioned to me. I was involved with the VFW for a number of years and involved with the sale on the VFW. And one of the places that looked at it was a major non-for-profit that it had to go back to their board to be approved. And they took a look at it and said they would absolutely not do it simply because of the fact the arcade has one way into it, one way out of it, and the conversation. And we've all known that for years, but just stop and think about that. You shut any one of these areas down and we're in big trouble. You know, we think about, when we mention revenue, keep in mind, it's not necessarily the revenue of the people working in those jobs. It's also the sales tax revenue, like take FS for example. When they sell a building, guess what? The sales tax comes to the city of Freeport because it's sold out of that particular place. When Inertia sells a $300,000 machine, you know what? That sales tax comes to the state. So it isn't as though it's not only just we're going to lose some people. And, you know, this is an area that, let's face it, you know, it really needs to keep the areas that it's got open, let alone shutting down any of them. You know, one thing that wasn't brought up, but Art and I talked about today, was a number of years ago, the structure did have some decking work done on it. It was closed, half of it for a period of time, and we did half a lane and then did the other half a lane. But I want to tell you, like I mentioned the last time, this bridge has been talked about for years. It hasn't been talked about just yesterday. And I look at this structure, this picture underneath, it's number 4 on your handout. I'd like to have you look at it. Here's a how many ton bridge being held up by 2x4s or 2x6s or 2x8s. You know, who in the hell ever thought of that? You know, I mean, that's even unheard of. I mean, it's not structurally sound. And it was brought up that the woman hit the bridge one year. One time, I'd say 6-8 years ago or something like that, and all it was done was patched. You know, but this bridge didn't just come up yesterday. You know, so just like to add that. Thank you.
Mayor?
Alderman Sanders?
I agree with some things that was said today in regards to the bridge trafficking and everything, but why all of a sudden it becomes a burden to the citizens of Freeport when they had been plotting plans, when previous administrations and councils have been plotting the plan to do the rehabilitation of this bridge. And like you said, they was just throwing patches at it, Band-Aids on it, and never tried to come up with real solutions. The reason why we never did is because no one did what we call a think tank kind of study to determine the magnitude and forecast or foresee this thing coming ahead. Like you were saying, we should have been on this journey years ago to try to remedy this problem. Now we have not had an opportunity to evaluate and do a complete study of that surrounding area, and to determine what other alternatives. See, we're talking like we have no other alternatives. Without doing a study, there won't be any alternatives. But if we do the proper study and look into ways that we can relieve this situation, get rid of this problem, and get a bridge. It doesn't have to be the same bridge, but get a bridge, and make it an opportunity for travel, safe travel. But my thing was, and I hear people talking, is that why is all the burden is placed on the citizens of Freeport? Have we looked at any other opportunities that could help relieve the people of the city? And so I don't know if we've done that study yet, but we should definitely look into it, because I see Fair and Graham all over this place as engineers. I mean, this should have been a simple project, and these guys have not proven anything of work that benefits the citizens of Freeport. We're so concerned about business leaving. Hell, business been leaving for decades. And so all of a sudden we got to be so concerned about a few business and the taxpayers paying a higher tax to even get involved in this project. I know that we do need one, don't get me wrong. I know we need that, but have we done the proper studies to determine we have no other options? You know, we don't just roll into debt assuming that this is going to take care of the problem. It takes more in-depth studies to make sure that we're all doing the right things for our citizens of the city of Freeport. I don't think we met that benchmark yet. And so once we set that benchmark, then we start working for the solution of getting this bridge done. It sounds like we're rushing, and I don't like that. That's okay, my brother wants to engage. Lucas.
Deputy City Manager.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd just like to point out that I believe in 2017, 2018, somewhere around there, the city hired Willard Hoffman to look at this bridge and to come up with some funding and to look at what the solutions could possibly be. They tried at least twice, if not 3 times, to get state funding, for the bridge funding, for the repair of this bridge and replacement of this bridge, and were unsuccessful. This is Firm Graham's first attempt at trying to find some state or federal funding for us, and they were successful. They're talking about bringing in $1.6 million. I just thought I'd try to set the record straight on that, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. City Manager.
Thank you, Your Honor. I would like to just comment that the study has been done and completed. We began looking at all alternative options last year when the project was moved to Fair Graham. We reviewed several options, one on Liberty, an at-grade crossing there, an at-grade crossing at Singer, a possible bridge over Singer. We've also the viaduct and what to do when the bridge was closed. And the best option here is the ones we presented tonight, which is lowering of the viaduct and repair of the bridge. And there are a finite number of options available to us because of the geometry of the river in relation to the railroad track. So it really cuts down the number of options, and they're pretty finite, yeah.
Mayor?
Alderman Sanders.
Yeah, but you may not have heard about the soil testing by engineers and contractors under that viaduct, the soil boils and the possible waterways under that viaduct. It has already demonstrated itself that they could not lower that road because they went there. That was one of the ideas that was presented, that they wanted to lower that road underneath that viaduct. That's the reason why that viaduct is still sitting where it is, because of the lack of exploration of the study of how to keep that viaduct from flooding after dropping it 2-3 feet.
Madam Mayor, may I ask who the "they" is in this conversation?
I don't have the historical documents to determine who it was because I wasn't part of the administration.
We don't know if it was ever done.
Yeah, we do know that it was never done because it is still existing after they went to make a move on that project. It's still at the level that it was before because they did the soil board.
Who's the "they"? Who is the "they"?
The engineers
It's gotta
that
be
runs.
somebody here.
Yeah, it's
Can't be
somebody.
somebody
Well, it's in
outside.
your administration files and documents.
I highly doubt that.
Oh my goodness, you got to be kidding
You
me.
must have sat there and read them all then.
I was one of the guys who
Oh,
was
okay,
doing
let's,
part
let's,
of the
let's
studies.
not have this kind of conversation,
Yeah,
fellas.
okay.
Um,
You're looking for an argument. You're
No,
not
I'm
going
not
to
looking
find
for-
No,
one
we're not
here
going to
with
go in
you.
an
looking for the
argument. We
truth.
can have
Yeah.
discussions, but no argument. Darren, I think you might have some insight on what Alderman Sanders was asking.
Just to answer a few questions that are out there, we have studied the viaduct. That's why we came up with this option. We currently have utilities, including storm, under the viaduct. So lowering the viaduct will allow us to still retain our storm retention that's under there and take the water away from the existing bridge. So that's been done. We also have borings that were done from CN back when they fixed the east abutment, so there is not ground issues within that vicinity. The reason it's never been tackled is nobody ever wanted to fund the idea. Alternately, one fact that was missed in the presentation is the city of Freeport actually owns the only access, which is the bridge. We don't own the viaduct access, CN owns it. So if they wanted to close that access tomorrow, because of bridge failures and the hits that keep going under there, they could close that without the city's permission tomorrow, and then there would only be the bridge access, because they control the ground and the right-of-way within the access point all the time. So working with them would be crucial to be able to make this repair. If they decided to close that, the bridge would become the only access, and it hasn't been an issue thus far because the bridge has been in service for 70 years. I would ask you, how many houses in town that are 70 years old don't need work? It's at its end of its useful life. We're at a point, in order to fix it, we have to have alternate access. It's going to be down for a year to fix it. It's not just the residents over there. If we had an emergency like we had 2 years ago with modern plating, and fire and EMS have to call in everybody in the county, City of Freeport has the only equipment that can go under that viaduct. Nobody else can come that direction. So if the bridge is not in service, they will be the only ones fighting the fire. That's a fact. They had to buy special equipment to get under it, which the city paid additional money for. So what we were challenged to do with the study that we did is to find an alternate permanent access that we weren't wasting taxpayers' dollars on, that would permanently provide a solution to the area. And that's what we've done.
Thank you. Alderman Parker had his hand up. for a moment.
Just one thing, it's to the point of no return. Every one of us, if we get sick, we try to doctor ourselves until it gets to the point we better go to the hospital or die. That bridge is dying, and we are accountable. We gotta fix that darn thing, and damn quick, before somebody dies over there, and then that lies on us. Thank you.
Manager Boyer.
Thank you, Your Honor. I just wanted to make one last comment here, just of my own. If we don't start working on it now, could I get some kind of idea on when would be the proper time to start working on it? Could I get an estimate on what would be the best time to present this in the future? Because I just don't see there's any reason to delay. It's been delayed a while, and I will tell you that part of that is we've had a number of different administrations, we've had different managers, we've had different engineering firms. We've got it together. We've got this figured out at the best possible value for the city to not only protect the residents that live there, but also protect the businesses that are there. So I would just leave it to your, I'd like to just place it before you that if this isn't the right time, when will be the right time?
Alderman Stacy?
I just want to say it's been stated a couple times that the government funding would cover 1.6 million, leaving only 400,000 for the citizens. That's not true. It would be 600,000. 2.2 million minus 1.6 leaves 600,000. And that does not include any financing of the viaduct.
Alderman Parker?
Hoping this is all I say, but responding to that, every one of us in our lives have been somewhere we're losing something we cannot afford to replace, whether it's a car, it's a house, or a burial of a friend that dies. But this is where we're at with this. It is our responsibility. We have to find the financing, and they got part of it ready. So I think it's no different in our lives. I've been in many places where I couldn't afford, but I had to find the way. And that's where we're at now. Thank you.
Madam Mayor.
Alderman Monroe?
Thank you, ma'am. First question is for the fire chief. How many fire departments around the area could support you if there was a train derailment at that, that impacted the underpass in that area with the bridge in the current state it's in?
Alderman Monroe, in answer to your question, we would call out our biggest box alarm, and that would get us mutual aid from all the surrounding communities and actually beyond. Our first tier is within the county of Stevenson, so you're looking at possibly about 10 departments. However, what would happen in a derailment is notification would go out immediately to the railroad, because once again, the railroad, it is correct, the railroad handles their own business. They have their own emergency teams. We would do what initial things that we could do to evacuate citizens, to do as much as we could for any hazards that were going on. Our first response would be to the residents of that area, but one call would bring CN officials and their teams and all of their equipment to come to deal with it. And they're very strict about what is their property and everything. We've noticed probably there were derailments in other cities, and that same type of thing occurred, whether it's in Ohio and no matter which railroad it is, that they are the people that deal with the problems on their property. We can make an initial response. Ours will be either to protect people in place, if that's the right thing to do, or to evacuate them to a safer area to get them away from harm. Does that answer your question, Alderman Monroe?
It does, Chief. And quick question, so I'm gonna change it a little bit. We recently, and I say recently, in the last 4 years, had a call at Modern Plating for release. What would be the impact if you only had one way in and one way out of that area?
That is correct. We had a release approximately 4 years ago. It was a small release, but it did involve our hazardous materials team and a call out to Mavis for assistance. We were able to manage the problem on our own, but one way in would definitely make it difficult for some of our surrounding departments because when we purchase equipment for the city, one of our first concerns is, will that equipment fit underneath the viaduct? It's one of the first things when we spec out new fire trucks that we bring to bear to make sure
that our trucks will fit under there. Our newest ladder tower does fit under there with room to clear and everything. But that is not a consideration for communities that are outside of us. Their tankers and things are much bigger because that's not their consideration. They don't have viaducts in their community. So their way to traffic in would be most likely over the bridge to support us, because unfortunately, or no matter how you look at it, the arcade and that area back there only has two ways in. And that's true for us, just as it would be true for outlying people. Everything has always worked very well, knock wood, that we've been able to service those people with conditions of fire or EMS calls. Everything's worked, accordingly, because we have made those plans for our equipment. So certainly it's a consideration for us, but it's not as much of a consideration for those people that may be coming to aid us. And so, again, their way forward or their best inclination would to be used to Hancock, because they know that height would not be an issue for their equipment.
Mayor?
No, I appreciate that very, very much.
I'm sorry.
What I find a little amazing as we sit here, there's a whole lot of pointing the fingers at why haven't we done something sooner. The question really is, how could we? We've been battling against things that were not done for years and years before many of our terms in office. We've tried to prioritize things. And this is an instance where we've got state money to come and help us solve a major problem. And it may not seem like a major problem, but if there was an incident at Modern Plating and the wind happened to be from the northeast, that incident would impact the entry route into fight whatever was going on. And I'm not saying Modern Plating is at risk of this. Things happen. Things happen on a regular basis. We don't plan it. That's why they're called accidents. That's why they're called emergencies. And that's why we have first responders that go and do this. But you throw in a northeast wind in one of these instances, and it affects 3 of our wards, 5th Ward, 7th Ward, 3rd Ward. And to hear people sit in this room tonight and say, we shouldn't do this because, well, we didn't do it before, is why we're in the position we are in as a city. I had hope that the people that had taken a seat on this council were coming in with the best interest of the people in the city, and I'm not seeing that. I've watched a lot of the city council meetings as I've been out with a medical issue, and I'm disappointed. I had higher hopes. I had higher hopes that we could come together and work together to solve these types of problems. Taxes. We all pay taxes in this room. It's not fun. It's not something that's glamorous, but we have to look out for each other, and we have to do the right things by the citizens of the city of Freeport. This doesn't help me out at all in the 2nd Ward. None of my constituents, but it's what's right for the city of Freeport. It's what's right for the citizens that live over there, the 90-plus people that live in that part of the city. It's also important for the businesses that sit there with 150-plus people that work there, that bring revenue to the city. So this is why it's important that we come together, we solve these problems, and we look at them in a way that we constructively attack these issues. And I agree with the alderman who said, I don't like moving fast. Unfortunately, if you get a gunshot in the chest, you got to move fast. There's no other option. You can't sit and think about what's a better alternative. What should we do? What could we do? We have to move. The money's available now. It may not be available tomorrow. And that's the problem with the state of Illinois. They put these carrots out there for us, and we have to jump on them when we can and solve these issues as cheaply and as effectively as we can. And I think we're not going to get a better option. The only other option is to say, you know what, we're going to close this bridge down and let those businesses know and say, it's been great knowing you. We appreciate your time. A lot of those houses were built in the early 1900s, late 1800s. So there's a lot of people that have lived there a lot of years who have been members of our community in the 3rd Ward. and we've got to take care of them as well. And that's why this is important. And, you know, beyond that, I think we've just got to get better at working together. We've got to get better and get out ahead of these emergency issues. And I agree with not doing things at the last minute. But looking at those photos, looking at the bridge itself, it's been ailing for quite some time. And unfortunately, at this point, if we don't do something now, it's terminal. So I'll leave it at that. But I really appreciate, you know, all of the input that everybody's had tonight. But I would like to see us come together and solve this problem.
Madam Mayor?
Alderman Sanders?
I understand we have done many inspections, Brother Clem, on this bridge. But one thing occurred to my mental state was, in addition to semis, heavy load vehicles coming across that bridge, weakening it on a daily basis, have we done a study to determine what is the load capacity of that bridge, to determine whether or not these semis or big trucks are got a scale notification on the bridge itself? Do we have anything that determines what is permitted to come across that bridge that will start breaking and deteriorating the bridge, even if we do a rehabilitation? We have to look at that from that perspective, because it is very important to not allow big inertias equipment going across that bridge, or any bridge, as far as I'm concerned. But the thing about it is, have we done those kind of studies? I'm just curious. I have never seen anybody put a semi-truck on a weight, on a weighing machine, or scale, I should say, to determine whether it's too heavy, overloading the capacity of the bridge itself. We need to look at that study as well. So
I believe so, Alderman Sanders. Either Darren or Manager Boyer, would you like to respond?
I hand this off to Darren to discuss that.
So the Hancock Bridge is considered an extension of Route 75. It is weight loaded for 80,000 pounds, which is a legal load limit. Carrying it in, we do have state police officers that inspect semi-traffic going across it regularly, especially during farm season. Mostly you'll see that, honestly, farmers are the ones that are not regulated as much as commercial truck drivers bringing loads in. But 80,000 pounds would be the same weight load that you would see at any other bridge in the county that's a state bridge. That is the load rating for over-the-road traffic. So in all confidence, that's what it needs to stay rated. That is considered a truck route because of the businesses back there, and also because of the businesses that used to be located on the other side of Hancock.
Okay.
Alderman Clem?
Yes. I'd like to make a motion to accept resolution number R-2023-48.
Second.
Second.
Okay, so I think we first have to have it read into the record. So, Madam Clerk, would you please read for the record the adoption of Resolution 2023-48?
Resolution approving engineering agreement with Fairgram for Hancock Bridge rehabilitation.
Thank you. So now on the floor, we have a motion made by Alderman Clem, seconded by Alderman Parker. Sorry about that. Alderman Stacy.
Upon having conversation pertaining to this issue this week, I was informed that tonight was for informational only, and that there would be no voting. And so that's what I came here expecting tonight.
Well, this agenda has been posted for since last Friday.
I had a conversation just yesterday pertaining to this agenda, and I was informed that it was informational only, and that there would be no voting until the July 3rd meeting.
Well, we have a motion on the floor. If there's no further discussion, we'll take the vote.
It's
Alderman Sellers?
I didn't want to say anything because I got a lot going on. But first of all, I want you and Monroe and Clem and Shado, I want you guys to know, it's not that we're saying, no, we don't want this bridge to be taken care of. We do. We care about the bridge, we care about the people, we care about it all. Well, we're just asking, can there be another way we can take a burden? I'm not saying another way for the bridge, okay? Let me finish. I'm saying, is there another way we can look at taking pressure and off of our citizens on steady hitting them with more money, more money, more money? That's all I'm saying. Hey, maybe we have to downsize at the top. Maybe we have to get rid of some of these directors and whatever they are. But what I'm saying is, that's what we're concerned about, are the people that's gonna say, hey, now we gotta pay more money. We just paid more money on the water. That was in dire need. And I understand it. We want clean water. I understand we want the bridge. I am not saying no to the viaduct. I'm not saying no to the bridge. What I'm saying is no to where is there another way we can take it off of our citizens. That's what we want to look at. That's what, when I walk out of this door, they want to ask me. Now we got to pay more money? I don't want to hear that, and I don't want to pay it. But have we ever went to any of these companies that are so hurting because of what's going on that they are willing to say, hey, we'll give some money to help out? Have we ever asked them to help us out? No. If they want to be a part of our community, they should help us too. We shouldn't have to take the burden on making sure their trucks and their money keeps rolling in. You know, I understand all of it. I'm just saying we can't keep paying for other people. And that's all I'm saying. And that's all I want to say. And hey,
Well, Alderman Sellers, you know, all of the things are budgeted. So, you know, when it comes time to budget things, you know, if there's reallocations, kind of more different focus, those kinds of things. But we're not talking about adding another tax to make up with this 400,000 or the 1 point or whatever it was. These are budgeted items. We have to figure out, that's their job. That's our department head's jobs. This is the city manager's jobs to figure out how to make it happen. So do we want to fix it? It's their job to figure out how to make it happen. And I think we're all on the same page. We don't want more tax. We have to figure out what's important and how do we fix it. Alderman Stacy?
It is not fair to put this on the people. Shame on you for coming in here and expecting something to happen tonight and not even give the people a voice. They have a responsibility. And you can laugh, Parker.
Okay, thank you.
You can laugh all you want to laugh, but guess
appreciate
who
that.
ain't laughing? There's money out there, yes. And if we were good stewards of our money, maybe we would not be in the shape we're in.
Okay. This isn't between you and I. Let's keep it.
It is. So when I'm speaking, don't laugh.
I'm eating her candy. That's what I'm laughing at, not you.
The people have a voice, and they deserve to be heard.
There's a motion in a second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Madam Clerk, could you please take the roll?
Sanders.
Aye.
Sellers.
no.
Clem.
Aye.
Monroe.
Aye.
Simmons.
I'll be happy to discuss a timeline, but no, at this time, no.
Parker.
Aye.
Stacy.
No.
Shadle.
Aye.
The motion passes 5-3.
Okay, we'll move on to item number 5, which is public comment. Are there more public comments? Wendy?
I'm sorry, before you move on to public comments, what did you just say, Ms. Devi?
The motion passes 5-3.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 ayes and 3 noes.
Who do you have recorded as aye?
The ayes are Clem, Monroe, Parker, Shadle, Sanders. Noes are Simmons, Stacy, and Sellers.
Thank you.
Ms. Pearson?
I'd like to direct something to everybody standing in this or sitting in this room. Unfortunately, Mr. Monroe seems to think that there are fingers being pointed. Sometimes the truth hurts. Mr. Clum said that this bridge has been discussed for years. Of course it has. It was discussed during the East Side period of time when we were fighting to maintain our homes and our properties. It was discussed during the period of time when I sat on the East Side Task Force. So there's no finger pointing, Mr. Monroe. The truth is coming out at this council, and not only is it coming out in actuality, meaning stuff that is documented, it's coming out in the midst of this council who doesn't seem to think that we, as citizens of this town, should have a voice in what is being done. I was very much so appalled and disgusted with a comparison of a bridge to an individual being shot in the chest. That was appalling to me. We've got people dead in our streets, and you want to compare a bullet in the chest to a bridge and a viaduct. Truth is coming out. The true colors of this council is coming out. I don't see the working together. I don't see that. I see denial. Now I'm going to give you some truth. One more. I know that things can work. You know how I know they can work? Because there's certain people in this administration that works with this administration that is willing to make it work. Darren is one of them. Have a conversation. I have come before the city council on many occasions talking about what is going on with our roads, our streets, and the inability for this city council or their insurance company to pay for damages of individuals' cars based around roads. I've gone to Darren talking to him about cracked sidewalks, pieces of concrete that has been broken off by major equipment that was used to fix our streets and to tear up our lawns. This man has gone to every spot I've taken him to make sure that it gets repaired. Now, I'm saying this because I don't want y'all calling Darren. If you want to talk to me about this issue, I will come and take pictures and bring them to Darren, because we don't need to take away from his time.
Thank you, Ms.
But I do know that this can work if we work together.
Thank you, Ms. Pearson.
This, we aren't liking.
Are there any other public comments this evening? Yes.
I've been watching
Can
this.
you state your
for-
name and
My name is Debbie Leininger, live in 1980 Woodside Drive here in Freeport. I watched this last Monday, and I was just taken aback. Really, the demeanor of the council members, it seems like we have a change. I've never really witnessed this kind of animosity in a public place. You know, I think we need to be, I just encourage the council people, when they go home tonight, just to reconsider themselves and the kind of example that they're making for our community. You know, for anybody tuning in and watching these council meetings, they might think they're in England. I was waiting for the chairs to come out tonight. You know, it's wrong. And I'd like to commend Jody. I'd like to commend Rob Boyer, the Public Works Committee. They did their homework. They've done their homework, and they came up with a viable plan, and I'm very proud of them, and I think we should give them an applause, because that's a difficult thing to have to redo what was not done in the past, and they're doing a good job, and I just commend them.
thank you. Are there any other public comments this evening? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So move.
We have a motion made by Alderman Shadle, seconded by Alderman Sellers. All those in favor? No, I'm sorry. You want to take the vote? Roll call.
As well. Sanders.
Here.
Sellers.
Okay, aye.
Clem.
Aye.
Monroe.
Aye.
Simmons.
Aye.
Parker.
Aye.
Stacy.
Aye.
And Shadle.
Aye.
Motion passes 8-0.
Thank you. Have a good evening.